Just a quick update. The date is, what is the date? February 18th, 2023. And I wanted to do a first video to start tracking my particular journey with Bitcoin going into the next bull run. I thought it would be fun to kind of track this since I've been around since the 2017 bull run, which we're looking at here on this Bitcoin 1 week chart. Quickly, I'll just point out that we're looking at this 1 week chart on tradingview.com. I love TradingView. It's great because you can really kind of get the macro view of things, and that's what we're looking at here. We want to look at the big picture, not the daily ups and downs of crypto and Bitcoin and stocks. But if you look here, if you kind of zoom in, each of these candles that you see represent 1 week because we're on the 1 week chart. And I know it's looking sloppy at the moment. The other things we see here are the moving averages, and I'm going to turn those off really quick here. All right, let's do that right now. Okay, so again, this is the Bitcoin 1 week chart. Okay, each of the candles are 1 week. And if we move it to a 1 day chart, as you see, the 1 day chart, what does that mean? It means that every candle that you see represents 1 day, right? So we can look here, there's some giant days in Bitcoin just over the last year, right? Where you see a candle that's huge, 1 day, 1 full day, right? From 56, 57,000 all the way down to 49,000. There were some big days. But again, we're going to go back to the macro, looking at the 1 week chart. So let's blow that up for everybody here. All right, so what I wanted to do in this first video is again to track my journey, which I wanted to share with you. And perhaps you can follow along as we move into the bull run. And I'll share some of my strategies. Of course, not financial advice. This is my journey. So looking at the 1 week chart with Bitcoin, we're currently right at $24,649. And we've been experiencing a wonderful relief rally right here. Okay, giant relief rally. Let's measure that really quick. So I'm going to hit that from the top up from the, let's do it from the bottom, sorry. From the bottom to the top. It's roughly 61% move. Unbelievable, right? And that occurred just since basically, well, I was measuring from Monday, November 22nd, all the way to today, right? So that's quite a few months of a move. But let's look at the short term. I'll kind of zoom in a little bit. We'll talk about just from this last little bit here, from January 2nd, okay? So this year, January 1st, January 2nd, that's when the fireworks really started. So let's measure that really quick. So not that much of a difference, but roughly 52% just since January. So just within a month and a half, right? 52% Bitcoin has moved up. So if you bought down there, which I did, but I unfortunately I sold, part way through. I made about 25% on my trade. And I typically don't do short-term trades like that, but come on, 20%, 25%, you can't say no. But that brings me to this strategy, this journey for 2023 moving into 2025, right? For the next 2 years, this is going to be all about accumulating Bitcoin and certain stocks too. But again, Bitcoin is the economy. So we always have to look at Bitcoin to see what's going to be happening with the rest of the crypto market, right? What Bitcoin does dictates what everybody else does in the cryptocurrency realm. Okay, so let's take a look. What I wanted to show you in this video, to make it a quick first video, are moving averages. So we're going to take a look at this blue moving average, which represents the 200-week SMA, simple moving average, right? And also this yellow moving average, which is the 50-week, very powerful 50-week moving average. Typically, Bitcoin dances around and uses these moving averages as support and finds resistance underneath them as well, which today, since we've been in this massive bear market, we've drawn down underneath both of these moving averages. And even today, which is why I decided to start make this first video, today we find ourselves pinned under both, literally pinned under both of those. Let's zoom in a little further. That's pretty crazy right there, right? We are stuck under the 200 week and under the 50 week simultaneously. That's big resistance, right? Now, you ask, why is that important? Well, most traders trade based off of trend lines and moving averages. We'll talk about trend lines in another video, but these are the moving averages, the most important moving averages in my opinion. So again, when a large percentage of traders see that we are under one of these trend lines, they'll typically sell or buy based off of the trend line, right? So if most people that are trading are buying and selling based off these trend lines, then that means there's a high probability that we should buy and sell based off those trend lines, right? Like a self-fulfilled prophecy, right? So it's not like we're making wild guesses. We are looking at probabilities, always looking at probabilities, okay? So what does this mean? Now that we're up at these resistance lines, these moving averages, and we're literally pinned underneath these moving averages, well, it means that there's a high probability that we are done, right? For the short term. And that we're going to probably reverse and head back down to these lows here, okay? Now, where does the low occur? Probably back down at around 16,000, right? That's a good probability because that's where we were before. Our lows were in the 15 to 16,000 range. Previously, that was where we started this launching pad from, right? But again, in other videos, we'll kind of go into trend lines and how they're going to play into where we can not predict, but estimate where the price might go, okay? So again, my thoughts, we're likely going to reverse here. Now, best case scenario, maybe we pop up here and hang out for a little while, and then finally we won't be able to take the momentum of these moving averages. They'll be pulling us, like this 50 week especially will continue to look like this. It'll continue to move down, right? And apologies, you might hear my dogs in the background. But this 50 week trend line, it's not going to just snap up and turn around right away. It's got to come down and finally get some kind of a turnaround, like a big boat, like a big ship, I should say, right? So because of this momentum moving down on the 50 week, if we blast up to here into the $26,000, $27,000 range, which is a good probability, this 50 week momentum is going to pull us down. And that's my thoughts. If we make it up here, it's going to just be like, throwing a rock straight up or a baseball straight up, right? At some point, it's going to find gravity and just reverse. And that's what's going to happen. We're really going to come down and crash hard. And that could take days and weeks just to get us back down to this area and then just find resistance again and continue down. Now, we could find a resistance here at this 50-day red line here that you see. Let me zoom in a little bit on this. There's a 50-day moving average right here, okay? So that guy, as you can see, is pretty volatile. It's up and down, it's up and down, it's up and down, right? So, and that, it almost looks like this rhythm that we're having right here is going to continue, right? We're going to probably come back and do something like that. So all these things, they give us the same kind of result, right? We're probably heading back down more than we're going to be going straight up. So, okay, so that's enough, I think, just for a quick overview of a moving average. Again, as these videos and as this story unfolds, tracking our journey here over the next couple of years, we'll go into really finite detail on some of these things, But let's take a look. We're looking at Bitcoin, but let's take a look at what other coins look like Ethereum. So let's kind of just go find Ethereum. I'm gonna I'm going to shuttle through a couple of things here. LTC ADA, we'll go back to both of those. Okay, but for now, here is Ethereum, right? This is my number 2 coin, or asset. I like to refer to them as assets more so than coins. But okay, so let's look at Ethereum. Pretty similar looking in shape. This is, by the way, this is a fractal which repeats over time, as you can see. Back in 2017, when I got into the market, this fractal, which means just a shape, a pattern of a shape, it's basically repeated here, right? It rhymes, right, with this 2017 fractal. So this is just a big version of the same shape, the same fractal. But again, we see our moving averages that we talked about with Bitcoin. We see the 50-week in yellow. We see the 200-week in blue, both SMA, simple moving averages. Okay, and when you zoom in, you see that red line. That's the 50-day moving average. Okay. All right. So where are we with Ethereum? Let's zoom in a little bit. Pinned under the 50-week, but curiously, we actually did blast above that yellow 200-week SMA. Unlike Bitcoin, which is under both, pinned completely under both. They're crossing at this time, right? So Ethereum having a little bit of a different reaction here to the moving averages, I would say. It looks like it's definitely dancing around the 200-week SMA, but definitely finding resistance under this 50-week as well. Now, again, what could happen here? I mean, my thoughts is likely a rejection. If Bitcoin rejects, we're probably going to reject definitely at this same point here, right around that 1600 to 1700 range. And that would send us again back down to lows. Again, if you want to extrapolate where it could go, probably in the 1250 range, right? But if if there's some severe negative news, then it could break those trend lines, right? So again, this is my thoughts on Ethereum. We're probably going to reject here in that $1,700 range. Sure, there's definitely room for movement upwards, but I would think if you look here, there was a lot of turbulence in this area in the past. As you can see, look at where all this support happened previously at the beginning of the bull run, right? All happened right where we are. You can even see this green line going across here. That is where we currently are, and that's literally at that previous support, which has now become resistance. So as we go down below trend, the moving averages and trend lines, we have to kind of break our way back up through them, but we'll find resistance at all of those previous supports. This was a support, now resistance. This was a support, now resistance. Okay. So the overall trend, when you look at the 200-week, obviously it's just continuing up, right? So that is the overall trend. So no matter what, crypto is on that upward trend, especially with Ethereum. But in the short term, we're definitely going to see some volatility. Okay, let's look at ADA or there we go. Let's look at ADA first, and then we'll do LTC, and then we'll stop. All right, so LTC. No, excuse me, ADA. I was going to say that the fractals didn't look right for LTC, but ADA. Look at that. Very similar to what we saw for Ethereum and for Bitcoin, right? That original fractal has essentially repeated 2017, moving into the 2021 and 2022 bull run. Very similar. So what we're looking at here is, of course, that yellow moving average, the simple moving average. And which one was that? That was our 50-week, right? They, interestingly, they crossed the 200-week moving average and the 50-week moving average have crossed. And ADA is way below. Let's take a little bit more of a look here. We are way under, unlike Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are up at those levels. ADA is way below. And this tells me something interesting about ADA. Okay, so Cardano ADA is probably my number, it's tied for number 2 as my favorite coin to follow and invest in. Okay, so for me it's Bitcoin, then Ethereum and ADA. I have equal positions in those, and we'll get into positions later. So, but what happens typically when Bitcoin is in some kind of a relief rally like we are right now, and it's going straight up to the moon and it bounces and hits those simple moving averages like we talked about? Well, Ethereum kind of sits back, ADA sits back and waits and watches, right? It may go up initially with Bitcoin as it goes into a relief rally, like we have done a huge move for ADA. But midway though, it sits there and waits. And once it gets confirmation that Bitcoin has stalled and is finished with the relief rally, it will do a final blast up, and typically will go and hit these moving averages that we see, right? And that is quite interesting because now that I'm looking at this, you really have to gamble and say, all right, yes, Bitcoin is up at 2 heavy resistance points right now, and it's probably going to reverse this relief rally. And ADA may still have some fuel in the tank. Okay, so I could gamble and say I'm going to take a good sized position on ADA, even though we're all the way up here. We've made this huge move already, right? Are we done? If Bitcoin starts to reject this weekend, today is Saturday, February 18th. And if it starts to reject today or Sunday, then ADA is going to probably follow, right? If it's a heavy duty rejection and Bitcoin's crashing, ADA has no choice. It just gets pulled down with the gravity of Bitcoin. However, if Bitcoin just kind of stalls for a week or two at the levels that we are now, then ADA is going to take that opportunity to push up to these moving averages, right? So that is I don't know what that is. Let's measure it. Probabilities are high that this will happen. That it could this ADA from this point will blast up and hit one of these or both of these moving averages. So let's measure those. From where we are right now to the 50-week, the yellow line there is about 26%, 27% of a move up. Huge. And if the momentum was still there and it wanted to go up and hit that 200-week, that's another 50% move, right? Giant. Not to mention, we've already done, what is it? 40%. We've already moved up 40% from the lows. And that occurred just this year. We've gone up 40%. Think about that. Think about the stock market and how long it takes to move 40%. And we did it in a month and a half with ADA. And really, most of that happened in just a couple of 3 weeks. As you see, this big giant candle here, right? I mean, these candles. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it really kind of moved up to right where we are now. Giant. That's why I love ADA. And let's zoom back out again. I mean, look what ADA's done, for God's sakes. It's just giant. Okay. So my thoughts on ADA and also Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin too. We're going to be doing something. We're going to be repeating this fractal and this fractal, but that's going to be happening out here, right? 2025, probably something like that, right? And are we going to reach that $3 level again, or are we going to reach further? And I can go and draw trend lines here. I won't do it right now, but I mean, really, if you extrapolate out by 2025, that could be up at $5, right? Somewhere around $5. Big deal. Between 4 or 5 is a good extrapolation, right? Something like that in 2025. But we do need to round out. We need to continue to round out down here. And that's why I'm pretty confident that this is just a relief rally that we're looking at, right? It's just a relief rally. And if you look at the previous fractal, this is a relief rally that's just going to come back down and continue this rounding out, right? And then we'll make a move, which is what happened here, right? So we had our big move. We had a big relief rally, right? Maybe that was this relief rally, something like that. We had a big relief rally, and then we came down, and then a small relief rally, and then we just kept rounding out. We're going to do something like that still. It's not over, this bear market. But this area was the time to accumulate, which I did. And that was, in that was in the end of 2018 all the way into 2019, right? Just accumulate. You accumulate at these lows, and then you wait, right, for that big move. And that's exactly where we are now. We're very close to that accumulation stage. My accumulation stage is right in this area, right? So for ADA, that's around 17 cents. Which brings me to my last note here. Where's ADA going? It's probably going back down to 19, 20 cents, 17 cents, maybe even lower. By the time the low of the lows occurs over the next year, ADA will probably surpass 17 cents, maybe even down to 10 cents, right, at worst. And that could be a temporary movement. Does that mean this is even a bad purchase to buy at 40 cents? Probably not. By 2025, it won't matter. But if you really want to maximize, you probably want to be buying later into 2023, towards the end of 23. Okay, so that's ADA. A lot going on for ADA. Really great asset. Okay, so one last thing is Litecoin. This is a long video already, I apologize, but I wanted to highlight my favorite four, my top four. And this is Old Faithful Litecoin. Litecoin is directly related to Bitcoin, and we'll go into details on that in later videos. But great asset to be investing in at the lows, right? Extremely volatile with probably the biggest swings of all of the coins. The biggest swings within a short amount of time. As you can see, look at this craziness. So Litecoin, LTC, let's take a look at where it is, okay? Obviously, it's a repeating, oscillating fractal. So you get in 2017, something like this, and then you pretty much got the same thing in 2021, 4 years later, 2022, right? It's looking a little different, but it's the same, right? The spreads between each peak were slightly different, but again, it's a fractal, so they rhyme. They don't repeat exactly, but they do rhyme. So interesting here, back in 2019, Bitcoin did the same thing. After the big bull run, there was this massive relief rally, kind of a mini bull market, right, that happened here. Bitcoin did the same kind of thing, right? That may be where we are right now. I mean, you could estimate this out. This move in 2017, 2018 into 2019, and then 2021 into 2022, going into 2023. Are we done here? Because, or are we going to continue like we did in 2019, right? This move into this move. Now, difference here is we've got the 200-week moving average, the yellow, the blue line, right? We are pinned up against that right now. We've been battling to get past it, and we have gone past it just briefly, but we immediately got rejected back down twice. Let's look even closer. So that's a 200. That's a very all-powerful 200-week moving average, right? Look at that, 3 times, 3 rejections, 3 different weeks. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so that just tells you how powerful this 200-week moving average is, and that also tells me that it got here before Bitcoin got to its 200-week moving average, long before that, and it's just been waiting. So, and with that said, similar to ADA will normally sit back and wait for confirmation to see what Bitcoin does. Once Bitcoin hits a certain moving average, it'll follow through and do the same thing. And Litecoin typically will lead that, though. If there's a big rally of some kind, Litecoin will often do it first, which is very cool, because when you see Litecoin going to the moon, you know that Bitcoin's probably going to follow, and then ADA after that. So we are pinned under that 200-week moving average. But looking at this, I would say that we're probably going to reject here. But again, looking at this history fractal, that really makes me question whether or not we're done. Are we going to repeat something like this, or are we just going to do a smaller version? Okay. Maybe it's more something like here, where we had this small relief rally in comparison to the previous one. I can't tell, right? So that's the thing. This is all about probabilities, making estimations, and leaving it up to your thoughts on where things go, right? I've got a lot of history of looking at these fractals, looking at moving averages, creating trend lines, estimating. I don't know everything, but I have a cool little system that I use, right, to at least get an estimation of where things could go. All right. So I think that's it. We're talking about where a high probability that we're maxed out on LTC here at the 200-week moving average, and we could stay there for a little while and reject with Bitcoin back down to the lows. Lows for Litecoin at best, at lowest, I should say, not at best, would probably be around 35 cents, $35, not cents, 35 bucks. That's the lowest of the low. I mean, if that's crazy low, right? But that is the low point. I've got trend lines that show that as a possibility, but my estimations really is like that 35 cents to 60 cents. Really, that's a good range. But again, for the next year, 8 to 12 months, we're probably going to be doing something like this, or something like this, right? Which is exactly what we just described. A lot of volatility, some crazy swings, 50% swings, 100% swings happening like this, and then we're probably gonna cool off and begin our ascent up into the new bull market. Okay, so that's my first video. Way too much information probably, but at least a good peek into how I look at things. So that should be it.